Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ness, and I recognize I am the last speaker between you and dinner, and so I'll be right to the point. What I recognize is the unique opportunity to talk to a distinguished group here who represents all of Texas in the sense of its academia, leading members of its industry and other complexes that are here together to forge a shared vision of what we can do collectively to advance the welfare of the Texas citizens and the various enterprises that are a part of Texas. I'd like to begin by just a short introduction in terms of where USAA fits in all of this. As Dr. Ness mentioned, we have the privilege of serving the military community. We have about 8 million members focused on people who have either served or are serving and their immediate families. They represent, in many respects, what we're seeing as trends that are population-wide. Members of the military, as you can imagine, are very mobile. They're very, very technology-inspired, and they have a need for services on demand in a variety of places across the globe. From the start, as an association, our job was to reach them wherever they were in ways that would be useful to them. That required an innovative approach because back in 1922 when we were founded, nobody wanted to insure the Army officer who was a part of a very transient population with high expenses. So the need for an association was generated. From that, we went forward then to unique business models. For example, in the 1980s, the concept of using remote presence achieved through the Watts line was our key leverage and breakthrough in business to reach that mobile population. But as we went into the more current era, what we saw is the internet has extraordinary possibilities, and now really the internet is epitomized because we all think of the smartphone as the ultimate expression of the internet and the portability that is a part of it. And so in many respects right now, the business model that we're talking about for USAA revolves around revolutionizing how we get to members using this phone and the capabilities that enable us to reach a young service member who, for example, is coming back from Iraq on 2 weeks of R&R leave and has instant need for auto insurance and all the other spectrum of capabilities that he or she expects for that brief period when they're back among us before they return once again to Iraq. So our CEO, Joe Robles, has said that innovation is going to be fundamental to our success as we look at a population that continues to grow and evolve. What he did was a very interesting concept. He said that we're not going to look at innovation as something that is brought in from outside. It isn't imported. It isn't something that is a part of a special little think tank. It is instead a part of a common responsibility of all of our employees. As he said, everybody has a responsibility to innovate, and it's going to be key to the success of our strategy. So what that meant then was we had to undertake a thorough examination of how we achieve innovation in this company. And we did so as I arrived in USAA about a year ago with a look at the culture that we had and the way we'd enhance that culture. What we wanted to do was encourage our employees to feel that their ideas mattered and that they could achieve significant advances in capability that would provide better membership service and also ease their frustrations in terms of inability to deliver the kind of service they wanted to members they're deeply devoted to. So what we're able to do was generate really unprecedented levels of commitment. The industry benchmark is somewhere between 35 and 50% of employees involved. Ours, as you can see, is in the mid-80s. We've already in 1 year generated about 11,000 ideas that we are now in the process of implementing. Right now, about 90 plus ideas have been implemented in about 1 year. So those are examples of changing a culture, and it's changed the culture because employees feel that their voice counts and because our innovation team's responsibility is not to generate ideas, but rather to move ideas. And we did that not because the innovation team itself is so great, but because we had the active support of the business leaders across the enterprise. Our business leaders made the difference for us. They took their employees' good ideas and brought them into the program and made them successful. So those are some of the ideas then that enabled us in this first year to achieve some fairly significant advances. And we talk also about, from a business perspective, of talking dollars and cents. We believe right now that we have reduced costs to our members about $28 million in 1 year. We believe we've achieved cost savings of about $10 million in 1 year. And in business, as you can all appreciate, talking millions of dollars of benefit has an appreciable turn of people's thought. So we want to now go forward to two specific examples in very short order of what we've been able to do. From the banking perspective, as you can imagine, if you don't have a neighborhood bank presence, you have a challenge, particularly if you're holding that check and you have no way besides mailing it to get credit for it, you're frustrated. The concept of using the iPhone to take and establish a picture image of that check and then deposit it was revolutionary 4 years ago. Also, the element of it was other elements of the banking industry thought about it, but were unwilling to underwrite the risk. We had no choice, number one, because we wanted to reach our membership. But the other thing was our membership is unusually trustworthy, and we felt that we could extend the privilege of giving them an iPhone and the ability to take a picture of a check and essentially be assured that they wouldn't represent the check 5 or 10 times because there was no way, frankly, of marking the check from their location to ensure it wasn't represented. That's an example of a culture of trust that is unique in our relationship with our members that we're able to exploit to mutual benefit. So if we were able to reach people from the standpoint of checks, that was good, but you had to be iPhone capable. And we know that many people, particularly those who lean towards later age, are just simply not going to make that move. So the next step then was to look at a partnership with UPS. As you know, UPS is virtually ubiquitous across our commercial landscape right now. What we wanted to do was establish another mechanism by which you could walk in with a check to a store or storefront in your area and get that check deposited. A partnership with UPS was enormously successful in a pilot, and we're now expanding it. And so what we see right now is that by about March, we'll have 1,700 points of presence at various locations across the United States that will enable us to dramatically extend our reach. Now, I mention these because these are ideas that didn't come out of the grand strategy of the enterprise, but rather bubbled up from within as employees concerned about how to extend what they wanted in the way of service to members that they wanted to serve, came up with their own ideas. So the genie in this bottle was an empowered, enabled employee who was able to take their good ideas and move them forward. So how did we take a look at other elements of this challenge? There were barriers. For example, we had to move from a concept that we're working in the near term to pursue perfection of very, very systematic processes, and instead transform the culture to say, while those things remain important, efficiency and effectiveness will always be important in business, but we also had to move to new creative ideas. We had to encourage people to think about the member in new ways instead of thinking about products. And we also had to think very carefully about risks. Now, Dr. Ness mentioned one of the risks that really concerned us, which is sacrosanct to us is the concept that if you're a member, your personal data is safe. In fact, our CEO said that's job one. And so the issue then is, as we get into innovation, we're talking about partnerships and sharing. What we're not going to share is the members' data. And we had to establish a culture that says we're going to share some things to include the ways we operate and the ways we want to go to the future, but we're not going to share what is absolutely a contract between us and our members. So those are examples of the kinds of things that we've had to undertake in terms of changing a culture and recognizing the historic barriers to change that we had to change, at least in perspective, as we made innovation a part of our future. So then in conclusion, where are we headed? First, for 22,000 employees who are part of our workforce, we have a challenge. And Dr. Ness gave us, I think, some great ideas about the kinds of traits and characteristics that she's trying to develop. We are trying to do the same thing. We want those most successful to feel particularly enabled, and we want those who lack the dexterity or skills to develop them. We have a partnership now with Dr. Butler's Center because we think it's very, very important that we're bringing our employees out into the academic environment, and we're also bringing the academic environment into our particular business world. We see shared relationships as absolutely essential to our growth. We don't think you can live behind walls as enterprises anymore. Shield yourself from others and be successful. Collaboration is key. It's a part of our representation here, and it's a part of our overall strategy that we'll see more rather than fewer partnerships and more relationships as we seek to gain the benefit of ideas. So those are a few of the thoughts about where we want to go. It's been a great privilege to be a part of this audience here today, and I certainly appreciate your indulgence as we look at the last presentation here before dinner.